Listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because this message could save you from destroying everything you've been building for months. If you're reading these words on December 3rd or December 4th, 2025, right before or during the supermoon in Gemini, you need to understand something critical. This is not the time to speak. This is not the time to share. This is not the time to explain yourself, defend yourself, or express what you're feeling. I know that goes against everything you might want to do right now. I know the energy of this Gemini full moon is making you feel like you need to communicate, like you need to get things off your chest, like you need to finally say what you've been holding back. But that urge, that pressure, that overwhelming need to speak, it's a trap. And if you fall into it, you will sabotage your own breakthrough in ways that will take months or even years to repair. This is an urgent warning. This is not spiritual philosophy or gentle guidance. This is a direct alert about a very specific danger that most chosen ones will walk right into during this full moon, because they don't understand what's really happening energetically. So before you send that text message, before you make that phone call, before you post on social media, before you have that conversation you think you need to have, before you explain yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation, I need you to stop. I need you to read every word of what I'm about to tell you, because what I'm about to reveal will show you exactly why silence is your most powerful tool right now, and why breaking that silence could cost you everything. Let me start by explaining what's happening energetically during this Gemini supermoon that makes it so dangerous for premature communication. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication, information, and mental energy. Under normal Gemini energy, there's already a heightened desire to talk, to share, to exchange information. But this isn't normal Gemini energy. This is a supermoon in Gemini, which means the communicative impulse is amplified to an extreme degree. You're not just feeling like you want to talk. You're feeling like you absolutely must talk, like you'll explode if you don't express what's inside you, like staying silent is physically painful. And here's where it gets dangerous. That amplified urge to communicate is not coming from your higher self. It's not divine guidance, telling you it's time to speak your truth. It's coming from your ego, from your wounds, from your unhealed patterns, from the parts of you that are panicking because they sense that massive change is coming, and they want to control the narrative before the change happens. Your small self, your wounded self, your ego self, it knows on some level that you're about to level up. It knows that you're on the verge of a breakthrough. It knows that the version of you that's been running your life is about to be replaced by a more empowered version. And it's terrified. So it's trying to maintain control by getting you to speak, to act, to do something that will keep you anchored to your old reality, instead of allowing you to shift into your new one. This is why the instruction is so clear. Keep your mouth shut. Not forever, not as a permanent way of being, but specifically during this window, during these critical days around December 4th, you need to practice sacred silence. You need to hold your tongue. You need to resist the overwhelming urge to explain, defend, share, or express. Because every word you speak right now is either building your new reality or destroying it. And in your current emotional state, in the amplified energy of this supermoon, in the heightened mental activity of Gemini energy, you are far more likely to speak words that destroy than words that build. Let me be very specific about the types of communication you absolutely must avoid during this time, because understanding what not to do is just as important as understanding why not to do it. And as I go through this list, I want you to pay attention to which ones you're already tempted to do. Which ones are you already planning to do? Which ones has your mind been obsessing about? Because those are the exact traps that are specifically set for you. The first type of communication you must avoid is explaining yourself to people who have already shown you they don't understand you. This is huge. So many chosen ones fall into this trap. There are people in your life, maybe family members, maybe old friends, maybe colleagues, who have consistently misunderstood you, judged you, or questioned your choices. And during this full moon, you're going to feel an overwhelming urge to finally make them understand. You're going to want to sit them down and explain why you've been changing, why you've been distant, why you've been making different choices, why you're not the person they remember anymore. You're going to feel like if you could just find the right words, if you could just explain it clearly enough, they would finally get it. But here's the truth. People who are meant to understand you don't need lengthy explanations. They get it intuitively. They see your growth, and they celebrate it. The people who don't understand you, the people who are critical or confused by your evolution, they're not going to understand, no matter how well you explain it. Because their lack of understanding isn't about lack of information. It's about lack of frequency. They're operating at a different vibration than you are now, and no amount of words can bridge that vibrational gap. So when you spend your energy trying to explain yourself to them, you're not enlightening them, you're draining yourself. You're lowering your frequency to meet theirs, and you're giving them ammunition to judge you even more. During this full moon, if you feel the urge to explain yourself to someone, ask yourself, has this person ever truly understood me? Have they celebrated my growth, or resisted it? Do they support my evolution, or are they threatened by it? And if the honest answer is that they don't understand, and they're threatened, then no explanation is going to change that. Save your breath, save your energy, and most importantly, save your frequency. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your transformation. Your growth is not up for debate. Your evolution is not subject to their approval. Let them be confused. Let them judge. Let them talk about how you've changed. And you stay silent. Stay focused. Stay committed to your path, regardless of whether they understand it or not. The second type of communication you must avoid is defending yourself against false accusations or misunderstandings. During this full moon, especially with Gemini's influence on communication and information, there's going to be an increase in gossip, rumors, misunderstandings, and false narratives about you. People are going to say things that aren't true. They're going to make assumptions about your life, your choices, your motivations that are completely wrong, and your immediate reaction is going to be to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to make sure everyone knows the truth. But here's what you need to understand. Defending yourself gives power to the accusations. It gives energy to the lies. It keeps you engaged in the drama instead of rising above it. When you respond to every false narrative, when you try to correct every misunderstanding, when you argue with everyone who has an opinion about you, you're essentially saying, your opinion of me matters. Your judgment affects me. Your words have power over me. And the more you defend, the more you argue, the more you engage, the more power you give to the very things you're trying to stop. The most powerful response to false accusations is no response at all. Silence in the face of lies is not weakness. It's strength. It's sovereignty. It's you saying, I know my truth, and I don't need to convince anyone else of it. I know who I am, and I'm not going to waste my energy fighting people who are determined to misunderstand me. People who are committed to believing lies about you will find a way to distort even your defense, so why give them material? Why give them your attention? Why give them the satisfaction of knowing they got under your skin? During this full moon, you're going to be tested on this specifically. Someone is going to say something about you that's completely wrong or completely unfair, and you're going to feel that surge of righteous anger that says, I need to set this straight. I need to defend myself. I need to make sure people know the truth. But I'm telling you right now, don't do it. Let the lie exist. Let the misunderstanding stand. Let people believe whatever they're going to believe, because the people who matter, the people who are actually aligned with you, they won't believe the lies. They know your character. They see your truth. And the people who do believe the lies, those aren't your people anyway. So why are you fighting for their approval? The third type of communication you must avoid is premature revelation of your plans, your dreams, or your next moves. This is one of the most common ways that chosen ones sabotage their own manifestations. They get excited about something they're building, something they're planning, something they're about to do, and they want to share it. They want to tell people about the new business they're starting, the new relationship they're entering, the big move they're planning, the project they're creating. And in their excitement, they don't realize that sharing their vision prematurely is actually draining its power. Here's what happens energetically when you talk about your plans before they're manifested. You disperse the energy. Manifestation requires concentrated, focused energy directed toward a specific outcome. When you talk about what you're creating, you scatter that focused energy. You give pieces of it to everyone you tell. And even worse, when you share your vision with people, you open it up to their doubt, their fear, their limiting beliefs, their skepticism. Even if people respond positively, even if they say supportive things, they're still unconsciously projecting their own limitations onto your vision. They're thinking that's a great idea, but is it realistic? That sounds exciting, but what if it doesn't work out? I hope it happens for you, but these things rarely go as planned. And all of that doubt, all of that fear, all of that skepticism, it contaminates your manifestation. It introduces frequencies that don't belong in your creation field. And under this Gemini supermoon, where communication is amplified and mental energy is heightened, that contamination happens even faster and even stronger than usual. So if you talk about your plans during this full moon, you're not just sharing information, you're actually sabotaging your own success. The universe honors sacred silence. The universe supports people who can hold their vision in sacred privacy until it's strong enough to withstand outside energy. Think about pregnancy. When a woman is pregnant, especially in the early stages, she doesn't announce it to everyone immediately. She holds it privately, protects it, lets it develop in the safety of the womb before revealing it to the world. Your dreams, your plans, your visions, they need the same protection. They need to gestate in silence before they're ready to be born into the world. So during this full moon, if you're excited about something you're building or planning, keep it to yourself. Don't post about it on social media. Don't tell your friends or family. Don't seek validation or input from others. Just hold it quietly in your own energy field. Work on it in private, build it in silence, and only reveal it once it's manifested, once it's real, once it's so solid that outside opinions can't shake it. The fourth type of communication you must avoid is emotional dumping on people who aren't equipped to hold your energy. This is especially important during this full moon, because the Gemini energy is amplifying not just the urge to communicate, but also the intensity of the emotions you're feeling. You're probably feeling a lot right now. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, frustrated, angry, sad, confused. And when you're feeling this much, there's a natural human urge to reach out, to vent, to share the emotional burden with someone else. But here's what you need to understand. Not everyone is equipped to hold your energy. Not everyone has the emotional capacity to receive what you're carrying. And when you dump your emotions on people who aren't equipped to hold them, one of two things happens. Either they absorb your energy and become overwhelmed themselves, which means you've just passed your burden to someone else, or they can't hold it and they reflect it back to you in distorted form, which means you end up feeling worse than you did before you shared. During this full moon, you need to be very selective about who you share your emotional reality with. Actually, the safest bet is to share it with no one. Instead of reaching out to people, reach inward. Instead of venting to friends, journal. Instead of calling someone to process your feelings, sit in meditation and allow the emotions to move through you without needing to explain them or share them. You have the capacity to hold your own energy. You have the strength to process your own emotions. You don't need to outsource that work to other people. And here's something else. When you're constantly emotionally dumping on people, when you're always the one who needs support, when you're always in crisis mode, reaching out for help, you train people to see you as broken, as needy, as someone who always has problems. And that's not the energy you want to be broadcasting during this critical full moon, when you're trying to step into a new level of power and sovereignty. You want people to see you as solid, as stable, as someone who has their life together. Not because you're performing or pretending, but because you're actually doing the internal work to become that person. And you can't become that person while constantly reinforcing the identity of someone who's always struggling and always needs help. The fifth type of communication you must avoid is reactionary responses to triggers or provocations. During this full moon, people are going to push your buttons. Some will do it intentionally because they sense your power growing and they want to knock you down. Others will do it unconsciously because the amplified energy of the full moon is making everyone more reactive and more triggering. But whether it's intentional or not, you're going to find yourself in situations where someone says or does something that makes you want to react immediately, to snap back, to defend yourself, to put them in their place. And this is the trap, because the moment you react, the moment you respond from that triggered emotional place, you lose your power. You lose your composure. You lose your alignment. And you give the other person exactly what they wanted, which is to pull you down to their level. Reactionary communication is never wise. It's never strategic. It's never coming from your highest self. It's always coming from your wound, from your ego, from your pain. And anything you say or do from that place is going to make the situation worse, not better. So when you get triggered during this full moon, and you will get triggered, the instruction is simple: don't respond. Not immediately. Not while you're still activated. Not while the adrenaline is still pumping and the emotions are still high. Step away. Take space. Breathe. Process what you're feeling privately, and only if you still feel the need to address the situation after you've calmed down, after you've returned to your center, after you've checked in with your higher self, only then do you consider responding. And even then, the response should be calm, measured, boundaried, and strategic. Not emotional, not reactive, not designed to hurt them back. Most of the time, you'll find that after you've processed the trigger privately, you don't actually need to respond at all. The person who triggered you is revealing their own issues, not exposing your weaknesses. Their behavior is showing you who they are, not who you are. So let their behavior speak for itself. You don't need to defend against it, argue with it, or correct it. You just need to note what was revealed and adjust your relationship with that person accordingly. The sixth type of communication you must avoid, and this is critical, is oversharing on social media. I cannot stress this enough. Social media is one of the most dangerous places for your energy during this full moon. Gemini rules communication and information exchange, and social media is the amplified, distorted version of that. During this full moon, you're going to feel tempted to post about what you're going through, to share your thoughts and feelings publicly, to let everyone know what's happening in your life. And every single time you feel that urge, I need you to resist it. Here's why. When you post on social media, you're not just sharing with your friends or followers. You're broadcasting your energy to hundreds or thousands of people, most of whom you don't have a genuine connection with. And all of those people, whether they comment or not, whether they like your post or not, they're absorbing your energy, they're forming opinions about you. They're projecting their own stuff onto your story. And all of that creates a massive energetic drain that you don't even realize is happening until it's too late. Beyond that, social media creates a false sense of connection and validation. You post something vulnerable or personal, and people respond with comments and likes, and it feels good for a moment. It feels like you're being seen and supported. But that validation is shallow. It's temporary. And it actually prevents you from doing the real internal work that needs to happen. Instead of sitting with your feelings and processing them internally, you externalize them. You seek validation and comfort from strangers on the internet, instead of learning to validate and comfort yourself. During this full moon, stay off social media as much as possible. Don't post about what you're feeling. Don't share cryptic quotes that are obviously about your current situation. Don't passive-aggressively sub-post about people who have hurt you. Just stay quiet. Stay private. Keep your energy contained. Let people wonder what you're up to. Let them be curious about your silence. That mystery, that privacy, that refusal to constantly broadcast your every thought and feeling, that's powerful. That's sovereignty. That's you saying, my inner world is sacred, and I'm not giving everyone access to it, just because I have a platform to do so. The seventh and final type of communication you must avoid is asking for advice or opinions when you already know what you need to do. This is subtle, but it's important. During this full moon, when the mental energy is high and the urge to communicate is strong, you might find yourself reaching out to people to ask for their advice or input on a decision you need to make, and often you're not actually seeking guidance. You already know what you need to do. What you're actually seeking is permission, validation, or someone to confirm what you already know. But here's the problem. When you ask for advice, you open the door for other people's fears, doubts, and limitations to enter your decision-making process. Even people who love you and want the best for you are going to respond based on their own experiences, their own fears, their own limited perspective. They're going to project their limitations onto your situation. And if you're not grounded in your own knowing, their input is going to confuse you, make you second-guess yourself, and potentially talk you out of doing what you know you need to do. You have to trust yourself during this full moon. You have to trust that the answers you need are inside you, not outside you. You have to trust that your intuition is more reliable than anyone else's opinion. And you have to be willing to make decisions without needing external validation or permission. This is part of stepping into your power. This is part of becoming sovereign. Sovereign people don't outsource their decision-making. They consult themselves. They listen to their inner guidance, and they act on what they know is true, regardless of whether anyone else agrees or understands. So those are the 7 types of communication you absolutely must avoid during this full moon. And I know this feels like a lot. I know it feels restrictive. I know you're probably thinking, but what if I really need to have a conversation? What if I really need to address something? What if staying silent makes things worse? And here's what I want you to understand. Staying silent during this full moon will not make things worse. But speaking prematurely absolutely will. This is not about avoiding necessary conversations forever. This is about recognizing that right now, during this specific energetic window, the vast majority of things you think you need to say do not actually need to be said. They're being driven by ego, by wounds, by fear, by the amplified mental and communicative energy of the Gemini supermoon. And if you give in to that urge, if you speak from that place, you will regret it. You will say things you don't mean. You will reveal things you wanted to keep private. You will damage relationships that didn't need to be damaged. You will sabotage opportunities that were coming your way. So what should you do instead? What's the alternative to speaking? Let me give you a clear strategy for how to navigate this full moon in sacred silence. First, create a private container for your thoughts and feelings. Get a journal and write everything down. Everything you want to say to someone, write it in the journal instead. Everything you want to post on social media, write it in the journal instead. Everything you want to vent about, write it in the journal instead. The journal becomes your safe space to express without broadcasting, to process without performing, to release without sharing. And here's what's powerful about this. When you write things down privately, when you express them without an audience, you often discover that what you wanted to say wasn't actually that important. Or you realize that you were being reactive and emotional rather than clear and grounded. The act of writing helps you process and often eliminates the need to speak at all. Second, practice the 72-hour rule for any communication you think is urgent. If you feel like you absolutely must have a conversation, must send a message, must address something, commit to waiting 72 hours. Write out what you want to say, but don't send it. Sit with it for 3 days, and then revisit it. 9 times out of 10, after 72 hours, you'll realize you don't actually need to send it. The urgency will have passed. The emotions will have settled, and you'll be grateful you didn't act on the initial impulse. Third, redirect your communicative energy inward. Instead of talking to other people, talk to yourself. Instead of sharing your thoughts externally, explore them internally. Spend time in meditation, in reflection, in quiet contemplation. Ask yourself questions. What am I really feeling beneath this urge to speak? What am I hoping will happen if I say this? Is this coming from my healed self or my wounded self? Am I trying to control an outcome, or am I trying to express my truth? These internal dialogues will give you the clarity you need to determine if and when communication is actually necessary. Fourth, find physical outlets for the intense energy you're feeling. The urge to communicate is often just energy that needs to move, and talking is one way to move energy, but there are other ways.
Exercise, dance,
Clean, organize, create art. Do something physical that allows the energy to move through your body instead of out of your mouth. You'll find that after you've moved the energy physically, the compulsive need to talk about everything decreases significantly. Fifth, practice the art of being present without explaining. You can be around people without telling them everything you're thinking and feeling. You can participate in conversations without dominating them, or turning them into therapy sessions. You can show up in your life without constantly narrating your internal experience. This is a skill that many people never develop because we live in a culture that values constant communication and self-expression. But there's tremendous power in being the person in the room who listens more than they speak, who observes more than they explain, who is fully present without needing to be the center of attention. Sixth, use affirmations to reinforce your commitment to sacred silence. Throughout the day, especially when you feel the urge to speak, repeat to yourself, "I am powerful in my silence. My truth does not need to be spoken to be real. I trust myself to know when speaking serves me and when silence serves me better. I am not obligated to explain myself to anyone. I honor my inner world by protecting it from unnecessary exposure." These affirmations will help reprogram the conditioning that tells you that you need to constantly communicate in order to be seen, heard, or validated. And seventh, remember that this is temporary. This instruction to keep your mouth shut, this call to sacred silence, it's not forever. It's specifically for this full moon window, for these critical days in early December, when the energetic conditions make premature communication especially dangerous. After the full moon energy passes, after you've successfully navigated this portal, there will be appropriate times to have necessary conversations, to share your truth when it's genuinely called for, to communicate from a place of clarity and power rather than reaction and wounding. But right now, during this window, silence is your protection. Silence is your power. Silence is your strategy. I know this is hard. I know every instinct in you might be screaming to speak, to explain, to defend, to share, but I'm asking you to trust me on this. I'm asking you to trust that the universe knows what it's doing by asking you to be quiet right now. I'm asking you to trust that your breakthrough is not dependent on you explaining yourself to people who don't understand. I'm asking you to trust that your power grows in silence, not in constant communication. This full moon is testing your ability to be sovereign, to be self-contained, to not need external validation or understanding in order to stay committed to your path. And if you can pass this test, if you can maintain sacred silence, even when everything in you wants to speak, you will emerge from this full moon portal more powerful, more aligned, and more unstoppable than you've ever been. Your breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your ability to keep your mouth shut. So here's my final instruction for the next 48 to 72 hours. From now through December 4th and slightly beyond, commit to sacred silence. Commit to not explaining yourself to people who don't understand. Commit to not defending yourself against lies or misunderstandings. Commit to not sharing your plans prematurely. Commit to not emotionally dumping on people. Commit to not reacting to triggers. Commit to not oversharing on social media. Commit to not seeking advice when you already know your truth. Just be quiet. Be still. Be sovereign in your silence. And if you're ready to make that commitment, if you understand the power and the necessity of what I'm asking you to do, then type "I stay silent" in the comments right now. Let that be your declaration. Let that be your contract with yourself and with the universe. Let that be your commitment to protecting your energy, your power, and your breakthrough by honoring the sacred instruction to keep your mouth shut during this critical time. This is your test. This is your initiation. This is your opportunity to demonstrate that you've truly evolved beyond the need for constant communication and external validation. The universe is watching. Your higher self is waiting. And your breakthrough is depending on your ability to stay quiet, Even when everything in you wants to speak, choose silence. Choose power. Choose sovereignty. Your future self will thank you.